I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Welcome to the Rainbow Push Saturday Morning Community Forum. We come to you each and every week live on the Impact Television Network. We're live on WVON iHeartRadio. We're live on Facebook. So wherever you are, you can get a copy of our broadcast. This week, we have a lot to share with you because not only do we want to inspire you, we want to inform you about our programs. We have several programs. We're giving away, as a part of our humanitarian efforts, more than 4,000 meals every week from Chicago, from our national office. And then Bishop Joseph Bryant is providing meals in San Francisco and Silicon Valley to families that have lost jobs, that are seniors who need some support so they don't have to make a decision between medicine and food. We also have our youth programs going. In Detroit, they're teaching coding. You also will hear from two of our college juniors talking about next generation. What are their issues? What are they going to do as you watch young people marching all across the country? Reverend Jackson is going to give his report. We'll have our international report. Then we have our voter engagement report. That is produced by Shelley Davis, National Political Director. You will hear from Senator Elizabeth Warren. You will hear from the president of the National Association of Black Law Enforcement Officials. There's so much information. I need you to like and share this broadcast. I need you to call and text your friends and tell them to tune in. Right now, you still have time. Connect to us. I need you to join PUSH right now. You can text the word PUSH to 41444. You can go to rainbowpush.org and donate or become a member. Whatever it is, thank you for joining us today.
Well, I would like to first thank Reverend Jesse Jackson, Dr. Wilson, the entire staff of Rainbow Push, and so many great men and women on this panel. I must say, as for me and Mylan, we have come together to have hard conversations tonight about social change, social justice, and equality. And we want to know the ultimate question as to where do we go from here as COVID has affected our communities. And I wholeheartedly believe that our youth are the future. And what I mean by that is so many of us are the future lawyers, doctors, therapists, activists. And so I thank Rainbow Push for giving us this platform so our voices can be heard.
At first, I just want to echo Hannah's sentiments, giving gratitude to those who have lit the torch and walked with this torch for so long. This list is numerous: Reverend Wilson, Reverend Jackson, numerous others, encompassing activists, advocates, students, elders, thinkers of all colors. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and I know Hannah is as well, to provide a unique perspective from the standpoint of youth and open up this conversation for what I feel is very useful intergenerational thought. And this coronavirus is something that we have never seen before and will certainly never see again like this. This is very unique. So it is so important that we are proactive in this moment and not reactionary.
We will be going to Mr. Stu Demeyer, and he will be taking on the floor now as he gives us a little bit of information.
I am the Global Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion for Hyatt Hotel Corporation, which is a hospitality company with more than 800 properties across more than 60 countries with 100,000 employees globally. I want to begin this conversation off this evening with a video that we created with Baritone Harper to talk about we're living in a brand new world. And as you go off to college and you then graduate and go into the workforce, you're going to be living in a totally different world than you were before. Many of you were conceived and born during 9/11, and you've gone through a lot of trauma within your life, and you're about to go to the next chapter. I want to just elevate the conversation about that. Brandon was going to play a video, and we'll come right back.
We're living in a brand new world, so we gotta find a better way to help your fellow man. Reach out your helping hand, cause we're living in a brand new world, so you gotta find a better way to help your fellow man. Reach out a helping hand. Before my eyes, it happened so fast, time has passed. You look that way, I look this way. For the reasons, things change so fast, so fast, so fast. The world has changed, we're all connected to Earth belongs to me and you. From sea to shining sea, it's up to you and me. This is our home. We're living in a brand new world, so you gotta find a better way. You gotta find to help your We're living in a brand new world, so you gotta find a better way. To help your fellow man. Help your fellow man. Your helping hand. We're all connected to the earth belongs to me and you. From sea to shining sea, it's up to you and me, 'cause this is home. We're living in a brand new world. Somebody, so we gotta find a better way. Help your fellow man. Help your fellow man. We're living in a brand new world. Come on. So you gotta find a better way to help your fellow man. All across the world, your helping hand. We're living in a brand new world. This is our home. Find a better way, you and me, to help your fellow man. All across the world, we're all connected to a brand new earth belongs to me and you. From sea to shining sea, it's up to you and me. 'Cause this is home. We're living in a brand new world, so you gotta find a better way. Help me sing it to help your fellow man. We're living in a brand new world, so you gotta find a better way to help your fellow man. All across the world.
We're living in a brand new world. We've got to find a better way to help our fellow man. And as I look at you as young students going on to college, I ask and encourage you to find the passion that drives you to help your fellow man, to help mankind. This pandemic has put us into a situation that many companies will not be able to rise themselves out of, lift themselves out of. So I wanted to start off with that and then go into a conversation really about what to expect when you are preparing for the workforce. I encourage you strongly to work at your prospective counselors at the universities that you're choosing to go to ensure that you are finding an internship, to work with an organization that is committed to diversity and inclusion. I want you to take a look at the corporation structure, look at its board, its senior executives. And if you don't see senior leaders of color, it's not a place for you to go. Because if they don't value, we talked about Black Lives Matters. If Black lives really matters to corporations, you would be able to see Black folk at the board level, at the seniorship level, and all through the organization if it really matters. We're at a very pivotal time in society, and it's changing tremendously. I will encourage you and hope to take you to enlighten yourselves to think about how you're going to perform. It's critical to understand how a corporation makes money, understand how they generate revenue, who are their consumers or who are their clients that they're working for, and look for ways to be innovative. There's three types of people in most organizations. There's your innovators, there's your early adapters, and then there's your late adapters. Most organizations, 80% of their organizations are late adapters. They don't have any insights and they're not as progressive or innovative as one would like. Doesn't make them good or bad people. Some people are waiting for someone to tell them what to do. Look to develop your leadership skill. It's more than having a title. It is the behaviors that will drive. The next video that I want to show is to give you a view into what the workforce could look like when you get into the workforce. There's 5 generations in the workforce, and how it plays out, how we make decisions and how we do business is going to be different. Can we cue up the next video, please?
Targets should improve markedly.
Oh, wow. Wow. That was inspiring. If we could harness the energy in this room right now, we could run like a wristwatch. You know, if you smile, it won't wrinkle your shirt.
That is not an issue because this shirt is permanent.
Yeah. Okay. I called you all here because this whole economic thing right now is kind of scary. So I called you guys because you're the experts, you know, and I've been listening, and basically I only have one question. What are y'all talking about?
Well, sir, if we can just go back to slide 1. The fiscal underpinnings of what No slide 1. Listen, I need you to talk to me like, imagine I was a person. How would you talk to me?
Mr. Smith. Will.
Ooh.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
I hear what you're asking. Why are things so much worse now than they were 2 years ago?
My man, go.
Where are the jobs? Where did the money go?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
The answers are all right here in slide 42. The ratio metrics clearly show an inflection crossover with unsustainable growth in the markets from June of 2001 until the present time. Now, eventually, the credit...
Next person try to show me a slide. Seriously. Listen, people are out there hurting, like people I know, and I wanted you to help me get a handle on what's going on, but you guys are not helping. And you media people.
Hey, Will.
Hey, Will. Hey, Will.
Time to start buying tech stocks. You know, when your stock picker
Okay, got it. All right. Here's the deal. We need to know how to handle this crisis. People work hard for their money. Are banks an okay place to put it? Is the stock market even going to exist when I'm 50? Do average folks get to retire anymore? How can we still reach our dreams?
That's the challenge I have for you guys today, is as you continue to go forth through education and you building skills and talents that you're going to build, how will you help your fellow man? How will you help to cure this crisis from COVID-19? By the time you graduate college and go into the workforce, many will still be struggling with the impacts of COVID-19. And people will be ready to retire, but won't be able to retire out of the workforce. Bringing candidates into the workforce and exiting them out of the workforce is going to create what we call compression issues. You can't retire them, you can't bring them in. I encourage you to try to find a better way to find solutions for us to exist in this brand new world. So I'll pause there, and I want to ask if there are any questions about what you have, what concerns you may have about going into this brand new world that you're going to help to create and bring innovation and bring ideas to make us a better place for all of us to work and live.
That was just a snippet of information on our student town hall. Didn't they do awesome? They will continue to bring information to us and our younger generation. So tune into our YouTube page at Rainbow Push, as well as you can find us on Facebook. As a matter of fact, specifically next week, June 19th at 5 p.m., you can tune into our YouTube page and our students will bring to you this information once again. Even in this time right now with this COVID-19, I can't afford not to work. I just can't.
In Detroit, Angel Marino goes to her job every day, determined her children won't live the sadness she had growing up. Her mother died when she was young. As a child, her family were squatters, looking for vacant spaces to plug in a pot and cook food.
And I want my kids to have stability. We just got into a nice place. We just got settled, and I
I don't want my kids having to move.
She has to make her own hand sanitizer.
Did we make that hand sanitizer?
Yeah.
Did we wash our hands?
And face masks.
Good job.
And one of her jobs is doing those COVID tests we see, the nasal swab. So there she is every day. And adding to her stress, she thinks maybe she's getting the virus. She goes to a testing site where someone does for her what she used to do.
I've been working doing this work.
Whew. Praying for good results. Every now and then, there is a tender mercy for someone who won't give up. The next day, she learns the test is negative.
Such a beautiful day, and it just makes you miss all the life that was usually out here.
She felt honored when foundations and cities across the country offered free daycare to essential workers.
First Responders First is such a blessing. I have 3 children. School's closed, daycare's closed, and I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm so grateful. What would you say to the person that's sick in the hospital?
I would give you a hug. Mommy, can I sleep in? I love you.
Nice. Oh, so sweet of you. Good morning. We are in the midst of a major drive to get more members, more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those incarcerated, change the policies that impact students attending colleges and universities, if you want to be a policymaker, then you need to join Rainbow Push and join by paying your $35 right now. Some of you watch us every week. You listen to us on the radio. You're viewing us in social media. We need you to become a member. It's only $35 a year. If you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, we've awarded more than $10 million to scholars year to date. What do you have to do to give and support Push? It's really very simple. You can go to rainbowpush.org if you're on a computer and press donate. Give any amount. Every dollar is important. You want to talk to somebody, call us at 773-256-2775. You can give right now, any denomination that you choose. You can text the word PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444. Text the word on your cell phone. Most of you have a cell phone. Just text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444, and you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving. Or call us 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and just press donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
My name is Gerlin Joseph. I am a co-founder and executive director of the Haitian Bridge Alliance. The Haitian Bridge Alliance provides humanitarian assistance, direct services, organizing, and advocacy on behalf of Black migrants from the Caribbean, Haiti, Jamaica, and many others, and also from the African continent, from Cameroon, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Ghana, Uganda, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and many others. We continue to assist Black immigrants as they enter the United States. Many of them end up in immigration prison. We have a visitation program where we go and we visit Black immigrants who are caged in immigration detentions. These are immigrants who came to the border asking for asylum, and in turn, the administration, the system, put them in prison without any assistance. The Haitian Bridge Alliance have been able to work with the Black migrants in detention centers, in prisons across the country. We connect them with legal assistance. We become the liaison between them and the community, between them and their families. We fight to get them released and be reunited with their loved ones. Unfortunately, many of them, because of a lack of legal assistance, because of a lack of representation, find themselves in a system that they do not understand. We try our best to help as much as we can. So we'll talk about immigration, prison, and detention, Black migrants, Black immigrants in immigration system, prison, and what we call crimmigration. As we know, the immigration prison system, as we know it today, we can look back in the 1980s when Black immigrants from Haiti were coming asking for asylum as refugees. And those Haitians were detained, caged, poked in Guantanamo Bay, and were named as carriers of HIV/AIDS into the United States and the world. This is an excuse that was used in order to capture and imprison Black bodies by the system. And as we look right now with what's happening for the past 3 months, dealing with the pandemic of COVID-19 that have killed over 100,000 people here in the United States, we are seeing the administration continues to deport people to Haiti in the midst of the pandemic. I want to point out that in one of the flights that happened on April 7th of this year, in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, over 129 people were deported to Haiti, including 49 children as young as 10 months old were deported with their families. Many of them were single mothers who came to the United States asking for asylum. Please keep in mind that those people, the majority of them, are survivors of the earthquake that killed over 300,000 people in one day. Those who survived were able to go to a humanitarian program in countries such as Brazil. And a lot of them also went to Chile and Venezuela. As we know, the economic and political systems in those countries in the region also collapsed. So these people walked, and I repeat, walked from South America to Central America to North America. A lot of them lost their lives on the journey. They had to go through the rivers, to the waters, to the mountains and the valleys and the jungle to be able to make it here. Now what we see is that in the midst of COVID-19, the government continues to deport Haitians. The last deportation we had was last Tuesday before last, where we know out of the 30 people who were deported, 8 of them were previously tested positive for COVID-19 here in immigration detentions here. We've been fighting to see how we can stop the deportations of people to Haiti, the deportation of Black bodies in the midst of COVID-19. We have written letters, we have knocks on doors, and we will continue to advocate on behalf of those people. But we also want to make sure that the community comes around us to push for changes in policies, to push for a complete stop of deportations of Haitians, of Black bodies in the midst of COVID-19. So we invite you to join us in this fight for freedom, liberation, justice, equity, and love for our Black brothers and sisters here in the United States, in immigration prison, and around the world. Thank you so much.
The explosion of violence and unrest we've watched in the United States this past week is sadly nothing new. And no one knows that better than the Reverend Jesse Jackson. These days, he's America's most revered civil rights leader. In the 1960s, he walked alongside Dr. Martin Luther King and tragically witnessed his assassination. In the 1980s, Reverend Jackson twice ran for the presidency. He was unsuccessful, but you can't help wondering what the United States would be like today if he had been elected. Liam Bartlett has been speaking with Jesse Jackson.
I may be poor, but I am somebody. I can't breathe. Many of you have given up on being first-class citizens.
Black Lives Matter! Black Lives Matter!
Reverend, thank you very much for your time tonight. I know your time is being asked for by literally thousands of people in your own country.
But you're a priority.
We're very grateful in Australia because you're a very important voice in this whole debate. What was it about the killing of George Floyd that has so inflamed the nation?
Floyd was lynched. It was on live television and live real time. He touched something deep in the hearts of people around the world. Floyd begging for life. Police on his neck, knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 56 seconds. The whole world saw it. It touched something profound within us.
Have you been surprised by the size and the scale of the reaction around the world?
Yes, and I'm delighted.
I am black, beautiful, proud. I must be respected.
When you were a young firebrand and you were fighting those disgraceful policies of segregation and division, what you wouldn't have given for a mobile phone camera, I suspect.
The difference has been the camera, because if that young lady had not pulled out her camera, we would never have known Floyd was killed. They would have lied. Matter of fact, they lied even with the camera rolling. The report was different than what happened. Police have immunity, and they're really innocent to proven guilty. But the camera more and more is making public their behavior.
Because I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
You were there when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1968. You were right there. You witnessed the aftermath.
I asked him, I said, Dr. King, do you hear me? And he didn't say anything, and I tried to hold his head.
I mean, how do the riots and the protests in the wake of Dr. King's killing compare to what we've seen over the past week?
So when Dr. King was killed, he was not that popular. He became popular April 5th, the day after he was killed. And so, but we've grown a lot since then. America's changing fundamentally. I think Trump may be misreading the spirit of America. He's stoked the fires of fear among many whites.
Oh boy, oh boy. Here we go.
How much of the public outpouring of anger and frustration is a result of a lack of leadership?
A lot of it. Trump has shown no sympathy toward the victim of the lynching. That would have been calming.
The victim of the lynching?
The victim of the lynching. He showed no sympathy toward him.
Reverend, you ran for president twice back in the 80s. If you had won, would the country look any different today?
Well, yes, it would look different today. America is such a deep hole of racial divide and class divide. We've not decided yet to become one society. And I think that sometimes the success of black athletes puts a face on America. America sees blacks dominating the Olympics and football and basketball and baseball and track and tennis and golf. That's a veneer
I hear what you're saying. When you look at America, what you see is not what you get.
Unless you have fair rules, you do not have fair outcomes.
How many more George Floyds do we have to see killed before we see real change in your country?
Difficult to say. You know, America is a strange mix of hope and hopelessness. And the killing of innocent blacks is another dimension of justice.
Barack Obama is urging people to educate themselves on how to vote and get out there and vote come November. He says that will solve this problem to a certain extent. Do you agree with that?
It would solve many problems. We're the most jailed nation on earth. We're the most violent nation on earth. Blacks being jailed and has been a part of America's story. My concern now is that we have a moment in time to discuss anew the agenda. And because coming election time is a good time to solidify these positions in conventions.
You think a different president will make a significant difference?
Sets us a different climate, different expectations. We'll have a fairly anti-crime legislation. We'll win that battle. So in some sense, I accept the challenges before us. I'm very optimistic about the future, frankly.
Thanks very much, Reverend. Really appreciate it.
God bless you.
Because deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday.
Every 10 years, the U.S. Census gives communities across America the chance to get the funding they need. But there's a catch. The money is based on counting an accurate number of residents in each state. The fewer people we count, the less money Illinois gets. Illinois has received nearly $60 billion from the federal government based on numbers from the last census. Every person who doesn't fill out the census means less money for Illinois. That's money we could use for new school programs to help our children thrive and succeed, for building new bridges that would help you travel safely on your morning commute, for paving roads and ensuring more reliable public transportation, and for improving our hospitals and clinics so everyone gets the best health care. In Illinois, we deserve our fair share, and it starts with all of us being counted. Visit my2020census.gov or text 987-987 to learn how you can fill out the census today.
Hi, I'm Todd Yeary here outside Dr. King's workshop, the Rainbow Push headquarters, where people of goodwill from all walks and all places gather as comrades in the movement for justice and equality. Social justice movements have been birthed in the imaginations of people in places just like this. You can be a part of this justice movement too. Join Rainbow Push as we fight for justice in the 21st century. Go to rainbowpush.org or dial 773-FREEDOM and remember, keep hope alive.
There's a revolt around the world where people are saying enough of this is enough.
Reverend Jesse Jackson was in Louisville Sunday to lend his voice to the chorus of those calling for systemic changes following the deaths of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and many other Black Americans at the hands of police officers. It's a cause he's been fighting for more than half a century, beginning alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the 1960s.
For a whole century we're trying to get lynching for the crime, and now only one senator holds it up, Rand Paul.
Making lynching a federal crime is just one of several moves Reverend Jackson is pushing for. He's also calling on several officials in Kentucky to take swift action in the Breonna Taylor case.
The Attorney General in this state has an obligation to act, not delay.
He's not only calling on Daniel Cameron to bring charges against the 3 officers involved in the case, he also wants Governor Andy Beshear to convene an emergency legislative session to end sovereign immunity for police.
When they kill someone, they must face the charges. They have no right to live above the law.
Reverend Jackson's son Jonathan, also a civil rights activist with the Rainbow Push Coalition, says it's unacceptable that Taylor's boyfriend Kenneth Walker could be charged the night of the shooting for firing at officers, but those same officers are still not charged months later in Taylor's death.
They could charge that young man in 12 minutes, and now 90 days later, they're still asking for information. We don't buy that. Justice delayed, as Reverend Martin Luther King said, and my father reminded me, is justice denied.
Reverend Jackson also called on the city to do more to bridge the racial gaps when it comes to poverty in Louisville.
The median black family income in Louisville is $35,000, white $61,000.
He says real change can only come when the racial supremacy this country was built on is permanently dismantled.
So I'm saying to Louisville, let's measure the gaps, close the gap and heal the breach.
We are a nation in crisis. We're a world in crisis. As we speak, we're watching marches all around the world. We're watching marches, quite frankly, all around our nation about not just George Floyd. Certainly he is the spark, but what is in the embers? Unemployment, record unemployment, a lot of mistrust of public officials, a collapsing economy, a collapsed economy. What does all of that mean? We're going to talk about that today with our most esteemed panel as Reverend Jesse Jackson joins us. We've got Senator Elizabeth Warren. Of course, she ran this valiant campaign for the presidency. This year, we were all so proud of her, and we still are. She is a woman who has been leading the fight, not just to protect consumers, but to protect our children, to protect all of us. And we're so grateful that she's been able to share time with us today. And of course, we have got Madam President. I wish I was saying that about you, Senator Warren, but that's all right. I just want you to keep on serving wherever you are. That's all right with me. And we've got, of course, C.J. Davis. Who is she? She is head of Noble. She is also the chief of police in Durham, North Carolina, my home state. Let me begin with you, Senator Warren, as we welcome you to this Rainbow Push National Elected Officials Town Hall meeting. Many of us have been shocked. Well, maybe I think it was more stunned by the visual of watching someone have his life snuffed out. And you have been on the front lines of fighting for, as Reverend Jackson joins us, you've been fighting for just the least of these. One of the things that I've admired the most about you, you are contemplative, you're reflective, but you're also a woman of action. What did you make of that video when you first saw it?
Yeah, thank you, Santita, and thank you for having me today to be here with you. This is a time of such tremendous crisis, and I'm honored to have the chance to just sit in conversation and fellowship with you and with this esteemed panel. You know, I remember the first time I saw that video, and my focus, of course, was on George Floyd and on his pain and on the fact that he kept telling them, this was no accident. He kept telling them, I can't breathe. But when I watched it a second time, it was the police officer that I focused on. And the fact that the police officer seemed to know that he was being recorded, and yet just casually kept his knee on George Floyd's neck. And to me, it spoke of just a complete lack of accountability, that he could do what he wanted to do under those circumstances, not because he was in a state of passion and reason had left him. That wouldn't have been an excuse, but it wasn't even that. It was just the casualness of he would never be held to account for the harm he was causing another human being. And that goes to the heart of it for me. We need a government, we need police, we need everyone to be fundamentally accountable. And that means I think we need to make changes in the law. It's part of the reason I want to be here as an ally in this fight, because we can't just go. Another time people take to the streets, people protest as they should. And then it all goes back to the same old, same old. We've got to make real change. And I hope that this time it is different.
Senator Warren, there's a kind of pandemic of the COVID-19, of police and race and poverty.
Yes.
And you know, the challenge of the alt-right, I think, invading the demonstration, burning cars, it takes attention away from the police crisis. He had 18 charges against him. He feels on the police. Because police have this immunity protection, and we challenge that today. Last year, 1,000 people were killed by police. 1,000. 49 people who killed people had less time than Mike Vick did about the dogs. So what's your position on this issue of police having immunity from wrongdoing?
So, thank you, Reverend Jackson, and it's an honor to be here with you this morning. The question you ask about qualified immunity, I think we just need to change that standard legally. You know, as you know, this qualified immunity and the standards that have been used have really been raised high by the courts. It's not something that was written into law by the legislature, but was raised up by the courts. And the legislature can change it. And I think that's one of the things we should do in Congress. We should change so that qualified immunity is, the standard is changed so there is real accountability. Racist violence is not new in America. We need accountability, and there are lots of ways to get it. Independent investigations, ban many of the forced practices, no more chokeholds, root out disparities across the board. But I think it's a good place to start where you identify, and that is with helping change the standards on qualified immunity. Every police officer should know that if he or she imposes this kind of pain on someone, just kills someone, there is going to be accountability.
He is the first police ever arrested killing a black man in history of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And now a police chief arrested all 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
He also is the attorney general, so it'll be a different outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Tumultuous uprising, but we're going to see Breonna's family in Louisville today. 3 police who killed her, they're still out because of something called qualified immunity.
I know. The whole notion behind this qualified immunity, I think it's wrong. We can't, everyone should be subject to the law. And there can't be a group that is above the law. The police are there, they're sworn to serve, right? They're sworn to protect. They're not there to be above the law and not be held accountable for their actions. And I think this shows up in lots of different ways. We talk about it now with chokeholds. I believe chokeholds should be banned across this country. It should be legal to do that anywhere. And I'm a co-sponsor on a bill to make that happen. But think, for example, about Andrew Kears, who was denied medical care. He's in custody. He's having a heart attack. He can't get medical treatment. So I've committed to introduce the Andrew Kears Act to hold officers criminally liable for denying medical care to people in custody when they're in distress.
This idea of criminal liable is another dimension because when Laquan McDonald was killed in Chicago,
mm-hmm.
They held back the evidence 400 days, a $500,000 payout by the mayor. He finally got out 16 times on a cover-up.
Mm-hmm.
He was arrested, the first time police had gone to jail in Chicago in 50 years for killing someone
mm-hmm.
because of qualified immunity.
Yep. But this is why we stay on it. And this is why the work that you do and the work of the Rainbow Coalition is so important about elevating these issues, lifting up these issues. You are tireless. You make your voice heard over and over and over. And I believe that we see out there today these protesters who've taken to the street, many of them for the first time, many of them young people who have never had this experience before, who say we have to change this country. It has been long enough. And we start with the focus on policing and police practices. But as you always say, it's all the way through the system. It's through the criminal justice system, but we also work on systemic racism in housing and healthcare and education, in the black-white wealth gap. Our job is to root out systemic racism everywhere.
But they say that when Lisa Carter says few rotten apples. The barrel may be rotten, because when you join the police force, if you're known to tell on another officer, you can get hurt. Yeah. Now get promoted. So a woman in Buffalo told, and she was fired for exposing the wrongdoing inside the police department.
You know, Reverend Jackson, we also saw in Buffalo what the psychology of group behavior, and I'm going to bring in, we're so honored that Senator Warren is going to be with us for the hour. And I wanted to know if you would be comfortable with a back and forth with this esteemed panel. Because we saw a 75-year-old gentleman, Senator Warren, and then you, Madam President Davis. We saw a gentleman walk up to a police officer in a peaceful way. And we saw him knocked down by the police officer. And the police officer, to his credit, and I don't think he gets it enough, I think he was even appalled by watching this man fall. And as he turned to help him, he was pushed by the next line. And so are we looking at a challenge within the culture of policing? Because we know that policing, it goes back to the slave patrols, but it also goes back to Native Americans. You know, that's where we got the Texas Rangers from.
So he was responsible, pushing that man down, watching him bleed. He had no excuse for not stopping to help him up.
But okay, but Reverend, what about him being pushed by his superior officer? Because we have a militarized police force. I'm going to ask you, Senator Warren, to respond to that. But of course, the president of Noble, Madam President, the Durham, North Carolina police chief. Perhaps I should just ask you that. First, I want to understand how that works. I think we all do, Madam President. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you again. And thank you for giving Noble the opportunity to be on this show, on this platform. We are certainly supportive of any legislative initiatives that help change what we have seen play out on the public stage in the last few days. And to the question of the incident that occurred in Buffalo, what we saw was a culture that was accepting something very, very contrary to what we are called to do, to protect and to serve. And to see an elderly person pushed to the pavement, I thought about my grandfather. I thought about, an elderly neighbor. And this man came in a peaceful way. And not only was he pushed to the pavement, an officer who tried to assist was ushered away by a supervisor. That tells you we have a systemic problem in police agencies where you can walk past an individual in crisis and not do anything.
While he was bleeding.
That's right. While he was bleeding on the ground. Again, in a climate like this, as we are addressing the horrific death of George Floyd, that officers still are not connecting that we have a problem with use of force. So some of the legislation that our great Senator Warren is talking about is also in a proposal that we've submitted to Congress as well. And I'm sure Senator Warren will see Noble's request. You have absolutely hit some of those key areas. If there were only 3 things that were done at that scene with George Floyd: failure to intervene, failure to render aid, failure to de-escalate. 3 things, if one of those things had been addressed, George Floyd would be alive today. So our position is that there has to be national standards. Noble was founded for this very reason: systemic racism in police culture, in police agencies across the country. We have worked on use of force policies. We have worked on implicit bias, racial equity. We have youth programs to help teach young people how to have safe encounters with the police. But there are 18,000 police agencies around the country who are allowed to look at policies like a smorgasbord. I'll pick this one, but we don't need that one. There has to be national standards. If we don't push legislation for national standards for police accountability and reform, we will see these instances over and over again. And our communities are begging for us to stand up and use our voices to impact change and impact change now.
Well, Rainbow Push and organizations like ours are your lobbyists. We're the people's lobbyists, and we need your support. So please consider giving us your support. Please reach out to us at rainbowpush.org. Call us throughout the week at 773-FREEDOM, 773-FREEDOM. And we have Christmas every day. Put us under your Christmas tree as we feed our children.
Please fight for comprehensive health care. Please fight for a fairer share of wealth to be among all of our people. So the Warren, thank you so very much.
What's the world coming to? We're losing hope, but I got good news. The world is marching with a brand new sound. If you can't hear it, I'll count it down. We're shouting 1, 2, 3, 4.
We don't want blacks dying no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Black people always have been great.
9, 10, 11, 12.
We have too many blacks in jail.
What's the cry? What's the chatter? Pump your fist, everybody say
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
Everybody say
I can't breathe.
Hands up, don't shoot.
I can't breathe.
Hands up, don't shoot.
I can't breathe.
Hands up, don't shoot.
I can't breathe.
Hands up, don't
some
shoot.
say black, some say colored. African Americans, stop killing each other. Under pressure, all together, we'll always thrive. You ought to help us to keep all blacks alive, so we can shout 1, 2, 3, 4.
We don't want blacks dying no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Black people always have been great.
9, 10, 11, 12.
We have too many blacks in jail.
What's the cry? What's the chatter? Pump your fist, everybody say
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
everybody say
I can't breathe.
Hands up, don't shoot.
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 check the history of the human race. Behind great things is another dark face. We built this country while under attack. Knock us down, we'll bounce right back. It might seem hard, but it's not too late to tell a brother, tell a sister that they're great. You work too much to be torn down. If you got power, please make a sound. Help me shout 1, 2, 3, 4.
We don't want blacks dying no more.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Black people always have been great.
9, 10, 11, 12.
We have too many blacks in jail.
What's the cry? What's the chatter? Pump your fist, everybody say
Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter. Black lives matter.
everybody say
I can't breathe.
They used to say we were just 3/5 of a man, and we had to fight to be fully recognized. Back then, being counted meant marches, pickets, jail cells, and worse. One way you can show we count in less than 10 minutes is to take the 2020 census. Be a warrior for your community. Be counted and make certain adequate funds and political representation are allocated to your state and your neighborhood. Just select one of these easy options. By phone, call 844-330-2020. Online at mycensus2020.gov or simply mail in your survey. Never forget, you are somebody. Don't delay. Take the census today.
I am somebody.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few of jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did and what we did and how global it was. Whether speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it and give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yep, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the U.S., but around the world.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to pound 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition. When you shop, Amazon gives. Visit Amazon Smile and select Push for Excellence as your charitable organization by starting your shopping at smile.amazon.com.
Get involved with the movement.
Somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Join the movement.
If you're not a member, become a member.
I am somebody.
Fighting the most important battles for freedom and justice for all.
You made us change. Oh, trying to bring closer.
Join Rainbow Push.
But you're not pushing me away.
Join the movement. Join